Well, on the heels of the deadly metro rail crash in Washington, D.C., Monday, the state of light rail, high-speed rail, and stimulus spending, they're under the microscope. Yesterday, the Government Accountability Office told the Senate committee that the $8 billion in stimulus money for high-speed rail projects, that it lacks an adequate plan to oversee the projects, and the system of superfast trains will cost much more than the original $8 billion budgeted. Also, President Obama's $787 billion program provides another $8.4 billion for public transportation in the cities, which includes buying new rail cars to replace older models such as those that were involved in the crash in the nation's capital. For more on this issue, I'm joined from Washington by Steve Ellis, the Vice President of the nonpartisan group Taxpayers for Common Sense, Republican Congressman John Mica of Florida, who is the ranking member of the House Transportation Committee, and from Chicago, John Schmidt, a partner with the global law firm Mayer Brown, who's focused on transportation infrastructure. Good morning to the three of you. Thanks for being here. Congressman Mica, let me start with you. Why is it taking so long to get these stimulus dollars out, particularly as it relates to infrastructure in this country?
Well, probably because it's government operating the distribution, and whenever government does something, it takes longer and costs more.
So, Congressman, from what I understand, there is a tremendous amount of red tape associated with getting these funds out. Were they not prepared? I mean, is this about getting the money out as quickly as possible, but they're not prepared to oversee where the money goes or how it gets sent out on a state-by-state basis? What's the issue?
Well, I don't think anyone anticipated the problems with the federal bureaucracy and federal red tape and strings attached to the money. Very little of the money has actually reached the areas where we have high unemployment. In fact, a report we're going to release on Friday shows that some of the states with the hardest hit unemployment are getting the fewest dollars, and that's wrong.
And Congressman, just before I move on here, who's releasing that report?
Well, I've had a staff investigator. I guess wherever you have government waste, you follow the money. And I've assigned a staff investigator on the minority side. I lead the Republican side of the committee, and we have followed the money, and we found that it's not going to areas with high unemployment. Very little of the money is out. In fact, we found only about $154 million out of $48 billion for highway money has actually been let in contracts and work. That's pitiful when we have people out of jobs, out of work.
Yeah. John, how badly in need are we of an overhaul in our infrastructure?
Well, there's no question that the overall transportation infrastructure of this country is in dismal shape. The American Society of Civil Engineers, which goes around looking at bridges and roads and transit systems, has given the overall system a grade of a D, and has said that it will take something like $2.3 trillion just to bring that existing system back up to levels that are acceptable from an engineering point of view. So there's no question we need massive additional spending on infrastructure in this country.
Steve, you do not believe that the stimulus plan is the smartest plan. What, in fact, first of all, why do you believe that it isn't, and what do you believe we should be doing about it?
Well, as the congressman indicated, essentially it's not a smart plan in the fact that we're using the existing structures and we're just trying to shovel the cash out the door as fast as possible, and also, as Congressman Mica indicated, not that fast, considering that we're talking about only having spent millions of dollars when they're trying to spend billions of dollars. And then also, just like John had indicated, that we have this huge infrastructure needs in this country, but it's not oriented to try to meet the biggest needs or to take things off of our to-do list. It's actually just trying to figure out how to move the cash out the door to projects as quickly as possible.
Congressman, Secretary LaHood, he's been on the show here with me in the past. We've talked about the amount of shovel-ready projects that they received and how they're trying to make sure it's a fair and equitable process. I mean, part of this is they got so much flack for not being transparent about the stimulus package. Now they're trying to be transparent about where the funds are going. But how much is that process slowing down the necessity to get the funds out there and to begin the building process?
Well, it's government red tape, government red tape, government red tape. Ray LaHood can get the money out to the states, but then the states and localities have to comply with all kinds of hoops, red tape, government roadblocks, and strings attached to the money. So they're having difficulty actually contracting and getting that money out. You know, I said that we built that bridge that collapsed in Minneapolis in 437 days on an emergency basis. And that's what I've been calling for is an emergency program. Cut the red tape. Let's get people working across the country. This is absolutely ridiculous.
John, when you look at us versus the rest of the world, I was in Detroit for multiple days last week. We talked about infrastructure. We talked about what's going on in places like China. How is it that we fell so far behind? I mean, when you hear this story about what happened with these rail cars in Washington, D.C., it just makes you outraged that we were given the warning signs that this could have been prevented had we upgraded our rail cars. But they don't have any authority to do that, and we've let our infrastructure in this country go. What happened? Why did this happen?
We became incredibly complacent, or maybe cocky is the right word. We built the interstate highway system in the 50s, an incredible accomplishment. It really brought the country together, a huge positive impact on productivity. We built new airports like O'Hare here in Chicago to accommodate jets and expanded air traffic activity in this country. But since that time, we just have never made that kind of commitment. And I guess what's worse, we've allowed the existing system to deteriorate. And, you know, it's like anything else. It's like your house or your car. If you don't maintain it, it will deteriorate. And if your family gets bigger and you don't expand your house, it will get more crowded. So we clearly have just been complacent, cocky, whatever the right word for it, but it can't go on indefinitely, or we really are going to pay a huge price for it in a human price, as you see in D.C., but a day in, day out price in terms of the quality of life and productivity.
You know, Steve, I'm going to give you the last word here. Is this rectifiable? Can we fix this, or is our budget deficit too grand that we cannot fix this?
Well, that's one of the huge challenges with the stimulus. I mean, here we're making an enormous investment, a nearly $800 billion investment in our country, and so we need to spend every dime wisely because there is a chasm on the other side, because we have not invested over the years, and now we're playing a game of catch-up. And part of that is because we've been building new stuff rather than taking care of the existing infrastructure. And so it's an enormous challenge, and we're going to have to watch every penny, and we're going to have to cut corners and cut spending in other places so that we can make the investments we need and not have a yawning budget deficit like we're looking at for the next decade.
All right, gentlemen, we have to leave it there. Congressman, when you get that report on where the money's going, please join us fast and quick. Let us know so that we can dissect it. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it.